and welcome to the Daft Souls podcast. This week I am joined by a man who'll be standing in for Quentin Smith for the next couple of months. It's Mr. Joe Screbbles.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm really stressed. And we'll get on to why quite
We'll get
shortly.
onto that quite shortly, yeah. I guess it's been a strange week in terms of games because I've not played a huge amount of stuff. I've been working a lot. We've just put up, when we're recording this, we've just put up a big kind of cool video about 80 Days, which if you haven't seen that already, you should go to coolghost.net and have a look at that. 80 Days is not a new game, but it is a very, very good game that just got updated, and the video is obscene.
I was going to say, yeah, you should watch it at least just because Matt has busted his balls making this thing.
I don't know what happened. Something went wrong in my brain, and I've lost my mind. So 80 Days is something, we're not going to talk about it because you can just watch that video because Quentin Smith says it much better than I could, to be honest, but I have all of the same thoughts. So just go and have his and pretend they're mine.
80 Days is one of those weird games where just sort of everyone feels exactly the same pure happiness about it. I don't think I've ever met anyone who goes, 80 Days, take it or leave it.
Some people aren't keen on it, but I just love it. I think it's more that they aren't keen on the repeat value of going around again and again, which is fine. After 2 or 3 times, sure, I kind of felt like I kept landing on the same beats and I read a few things too many times, but I love it. It's a fantastic game that manages to convey the sense of journey and adventure and travel, and really, but also that idea that you are travelling around the world for a bet and you're trying to make it as quickly as possible. It's almost like, what I love about it is that every time I play it, you start off with this sort of like pace of being like, we've got to go, what's the fastest rate? We're going to get this train, fantastic, we're saving so much time, this is brilliant. And then things start to go wrong, and then you just get like lost in these strange stories halfway around the world where you just forget. And you just get like enveloped in it, and you go, yeah, things have slowed down, yeah, we're behind time, but this is fascinating. But then all of a sudden, you're on a mad airship, and you're like, oh my god, we're back on track, and we might do it in no time.
Yeah, but it's also got that strange thing of after say like 2 or 3 times where you're kind of genuinely racing other people, because I had that thing where I was tweeting people going, I got 16 days and that kind of stuff. And then after a while, you start to go, oh no, I just want to see as much as possible, and you realise that the constrictions of the game don't stop you from doing that. It's just that you're just making your master upset with you, which is bad in its own way. It makes you feel bad because it's well written enough. But you get that strange thing where I started thinking of it as like Passepartout's having a Groundhog Day situation. This is like Act 2 of Groundhog Day. Where Bill Murray gets all lackadaisical and just can't be asked and starts killing himself. Yeah. To me, that's what that is. It's like, fuck it, I'm going to like the tip of Africa.
How the fuck did we end up here, Passepartout?
Look, mate.
Just never been here before, mate. I just want to do something different for my fucking life.
I heard something about maybe like a teleporter, so just having a look.
Nothing here. Anyway, back on the boat.
All right.
No, it's true, and there are actually like you kind of weirdly realise that actually going around the world quickly feels like a challenge to begin with. But once you get good at that, you then realise there's more of a challenge almost because the game will not let you go backwards around the globe.
Yeah.
There's sometimes more of a challenge just getting to certain places because you have to just go as kind of vertically around the globe as you can.
Yeah.
But you're always going a little bit.
Exactly, you're doing that sort of strange, like, oscilloscope thing where you're just, like, shooting up and down the globe all the way.
And so there are a few places you're like, how the hell do I get there? Like, before it's too late, before the game goes, well, no, you can't go backwards.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely, lovely thing. And I had a really, really... it was one of those things I downloaded the iPad over Christmas and thought, this will be a fun thing, have a go. And just thought, this is kind of cute. Wasn't really massively into it. And then somewhere halfway around Europe, I was just locked in.
Yeah.
And... hell of a thing.
For me, it's always like the Orient Express bit. Everyone gets on that train and then is like, I can get off anywhere.
Yeah.
And go anywhere. And there's suddenly... Exactly. And suddenly it's just like, oh, fuck, I'm in the world.
Yeah.
It's really
and as a man
strange.
who didn't know much about the world, I obviously didn't learn a huge amount of the world because it is a fantasy version of the world, but you do learn a few things.
Yeah, there's bits and pieces.
Such as like, don't trust nuns, etc.
Never trust nuns.
But no, it's fantastic. If you don't know anything about it at all, I'd just go and watch that video, it's fantastic. If you do know about the game, you might be interested to know that the new version adds stuff like the moon, Atlantis, and some other crazy stuff. And also, it sounds like it's interesting, but Canada, which is great because... the problem you have with that game is that there are a few kind of bottlenecks where you always find yourself going through like North America or a few other places. They've kind of opened them up a bit. So if you are playing it again and again and again, then there's more things to see.
There's a really nice piece that Meg Giant, the writer, tweeted, and I can't remember who it was, which makes me feel really bad, but it's about how it's sort of they've added specifically like ethnic groups that they didn't cover the first time. So there's loads more like Native American people and stuff. So it kind of fills out the world's cultures as well as areas to go, which is just really nice. Like it's using game design to fix sort of narrative problems, which is great. Like it's really interesting how they've been adding to that game. It's
Fantastic.
Not just mad places.
No.
It's really cool.
No, the writing in that is fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
It's so good. I mean, if it wasn't, it would be a rubbish game.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that makes it a good game,
What
really.
do you think there's like close to 1 million words in that game
Too many
now?
words, I think.
That's insane.
Take half of them out, see what happens.
See who cares.
Get it to America. Nothing.
Just, every place just goes.
Keep clicking it until you're out of America. Done.
Desert.
Another thing I played last week was the Beginner's Guide.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird because I don't even really want to talk about it.
Oh, really?
No.
Just because sad? Or
it's a combination of the fact that like I don't feel like I can say much about it without spoiling it, and also because it had a profound effect on me, which was kind of negative in a way.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I enjoyed the experience, but it kind of left me feeling quite empty.
Yeah.
And that's not. But at the same time, that's not a criticism of it.
No, it's a really weird one. And like if the idea is we will not spoil it here, then we can't really talk about it. I'll tell you what I really like about it is, apart from anything else, everyone knows what the structure is, which is the guy who made Stanley Parable is playing through a set of games that a friend of his made. And the thing that really interested me about it was what I thought a few years ago. Ed McMillan, who made Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac, released like a collection of all his early games, like stuff he used to do on Newgrounds.
Right.
And it was kind of what I wanted that to be, like this curated, here's why I did all these things. And that game, that didn't really do that. So to me, it felt like, oh, this is what it would feel like if someone walked you through someone's sort of life in games as it's like a documentary piece.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. Like it's exactly what I wanted from that sort of
I'd like to see
feeling.
more of things like that.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Imagine how interesting, because a game made of pieces of Peter Molyneux's games throughout his career would be better than any Peter Molyneux game.
That's true.
More or less. Like if you were just playing the pieces that you were like, this is what he was trying to do and this is where he went mad. And like, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like just a curated like documentary game. It'd be wicked. I'd be down for that.
Yeah. I think actually that kind of curation would be really, really exciting.
But
and I've got to say, like, I thought that the structure of the Beginner's Guide was fantastic.
Oh,
it's very, very different. And it's one of those things where it clearly is more like a piece of art than it is actually a game in many regards. But it was very interesting. But I just came away from it. It was a really interesting one. The fact that so much of it was about you basically having a conversation with an author almost.
Yeah.
About something. I just thought, it's one of those things where I kind of think, I don't know if I want to talk about this, because it's one of those interesting things, and I felt like a real tit. Frankly, I'm going to go out and say it, a tit.
Well, I felt like a real wally, to be honest.
A complete wally. When I kind of put up a short video being like, I can't talk about this game without talking about myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to. And lots of other people had the same thing, it turned out. And some people did the same thing as me of saying, so I'm not going to. Some people just talked about themselves. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's just the way it was. And it was one of these things where I could not think about that game without just thinking about myself. And that's because I'm a tit.
The thing is, again, this isn't a thing you can talk about without spoiling it, but I came out of it and went, well, that was amazing. And then because of what it is, you think about it and you think about it and you think about it and you toss it over and you change opinions over and over again based on narrative points and critical points, and everything just swims about in your head. And I came out of it feeling sort of negative about not in a sense of I felt sad. I feel vaguely negative about what it is doing. And I can't talk about it. But there's a sense in my head that it is a far colder game than it presents itself as.
It is pretty cold, yeah.
But cold in... no, I can't talk about it.
No,
Never mind.
That's the thing. You can't talk about it. But it's
we'll do spoilers about it at some point.
Kind of fascinating. And it's fascinating, I think, mainly just because of the two factors I found. Is the fact that when was the last time that I found myself unable to talk about a video game because it was purely introspections and about how it made me think about how I experience the world? When does that happen? I don't think it's ever happened to me before. Where I'm like, sorry, I can't tell you about The Walking Dead because I'd be revealing too much of my inner psyche, and I'm not willing to do that as somebody who talks about video games for a living. At the same time, it's this thing of being like, well, it's the sort of game where you kind of go like when people say, when we recommend games to people, you recommend games to people based on a number of criteria. And there have been many times in the past where I've recommended to people that they should play games because they'll have an experience. Like, actually, The Walking Dead is a great example of that.
Yeah.
Of being like, you should play this. Is it good? Oh, it's fucking really good. Will it be fun? Well, yeah, sort of. Like, will I have a nice time? No,
it's fun. It's fun in the way the TV program is.
But it's stressful, occasionally cathartic, but mostly just stressful and kind of puts the mirror on you and goes, that's the sort of person that you are. How do you live with yourself?
In the weird telltale way that it tells you that the whole way through. Yeah. Where it's like, you realise that you're a bit of a dick.
Sings a ditty to you.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks you're horrible.
It's the thing that always strikes in my head when things like that happen is like, well, the obvious one is LA Noir's weird faces, where it's like, this person's lying because they did this when they made a face, and they have this weird nervous tick. But also in LA Noir, wherever you saw a clue and it goes, you're like, no, I knew it was a clue before you did that.
I knew it was a clue.
Come on, Eleanor, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got off.
No, it's fine.
It's one of those things. Anyway, experience games.
That's exactly it. And it's that thing, if you recommend it to people and you go, I had an experience. But recently we've seen a lot more which are like kind of negative experiences, right? And some of my favourite games are games which, and I won't say them for spoilers, but games which you are having fun with them, and then at some point you suddenly go, oh no, I haven't been being fun, I've been being bad. And then you feel bad. And they're great. But the thing is, these kinds of games are still like so very two-dimensional in terms of the experience they can offer you.
Yeah.
In terms of going, oh, it's a game that makes you feel a bit sad because sad things happen. Or, oh, it's a game that makes you feel stressed and maybe makes you wonder if you're a bad person for playing it.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just like, you're having an existential crisis.
It's sort of... now we're getting into truly Ponzi territory, but it's sort of a second-person game. Like,
yeah,
it is a game where it's sort of telling you, it's bringing you through the plot it wants you to have. So it's like reading a book where it's like reading a Choose Your Own Adventure book where it's going, you go in this place, you go here. So it's leading you through, but you have some interaction with what it's leading you through, and that's what makes the experience. Like, it's really quite odd.
It's very clever.
Yeah, really intelligent. That's kind of part of my problem with it, that it is too intelligent.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And that's the thing, is I kind of feel like I don't even know if I recommend it to people. I think if you're somebody who creates things for a living, and you're somebody who is, well, not even necessarily for a living, but if you're somebody who's driven by creating things, and you're somebody who is fascinated in the medium of games, it's definitely something that I'd recommend playing.
Yeah. Oh, the thing that I got most out of it was, and I didn't expect, was it's sort of like a primer in game making as a game design as personal expression, because it's not something I've ever studied, and it's not something I'm good at recognizing necessarily. So someone literally walking me through and going, I reckon this is what he was thinking when he did this, and you go, oh shit, yeah, it really makes sense.
Again, I wasn't that familiar with that side of things either, so it was fascinating to me on a bunch of levels. But it's the sort of thing where people say, oh, should I definitely play it? And it's like, not in the same way.
Yeah.
In the same way, there are games which are like games like Gone Home. I think anyone who's like, an adult in a sane mind will have a really interesting time with that game. I mean, if you're not, then you won't, but fuck you. Or, don't fuck you, but maybe in a few years you'll grow up. Or maybe you won't, and then fuck you. But this is different. This is like, I can't recommend this to anyone in the same way. It's like, and you know what? Like, it's the sort of game where I saw somebody on Cool Ghosts, actually, and I have to say, actually, we had a thread on this on the site, like underneath the video I did, and the thread there, the discussion, has lots of spoilers, but it's a fantastic.
It's so good. Like,
I mean, I don't want to blow our own trumpet, but I like the selection of like feedback and some of the stories people told there about their lives. It's one of those things where I didn't personally want to share stuff, but lots of people were happy to, and it's a fantastic read. I found that if you play the game and you feel a bit lost, go there, because that made me feel better.
It's like a little transcript of a This American Life episode underneath that thread. It's just loads of people getting really in depth about interesting stuff in interesting ways. It's great.
Yeah. So it's not for everyone, but it is interesting. But I don't want to talk about it.
I'd imagine people listening to Daft Souls would enjoy it. It's an hour and a half.
So, but what I was going to say is there was a comment of somebody saying, feels like this game could have done with a warning, because it's like, I felt really low and now I feel worse.
Yes.
And it's the sort of thing where like I actually had a weird time with it, because the topic, some of the themes that it explores in that game, I had literally spent most of that day thinking about, and then I found myself playing this game, being immersed in them, and I'm like, is this the weirdest, most elaborate hidden camera show ever? So it was kind of like staring into a mirror in many ways, and I found that quite unsettling.
That's called egomania. Is this about me?
No, I knew it wasn't about me, Joe. I knew it wasn't about me. Thanks, Davey Raid. Thanks for making a game about me. I love you, Davey.
I'm Coda.
It's me. I'm beautiful.
I forgot all these games I made. These brilliant games.
I forgot I was brilliant at this as well. And there you are. If you think I'm a tit, then you've just had it confirmed.
Isolate that.
Live. Anyway, let's talk about something which we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And we know what it's going to be.
I feel worse about this than Beginner's Guide.
Yeah, this is pretty terrible as well, but in a different way. And again, quite difficult to recommend for different reasons. We were talking quite recently in Quinn's, before he jetted off to Canada, about doing a maybe a weekly video series, which would be about something. But we thought, well, let's do something which we don't have to be in the same room.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe Neptune's Pride. Neptune's Pride, it's an oldish game, and it's very it's kind of asynchronous, but also constantly going on in the fact that you can you can send ships to reinforce and have, but it's just a bit like Diplomacy, the board game, or if you don't know what that is, it's Risk, but without any luck, which just means that your relationships are based purely on you talking to other people and saying, are you going to do this? Are you going to defend me here? Are you going to help me here? Bada, 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 bada.
Well, actually, we'll get into this in a minute, because because there's some interesting stuff.
There is some interesting stuff, but when we realised we were going to start Neptune's Pride, and then out of nowhere, and it may have been coincidence, I do not know, Quinn's got an email being like, hello, we're releasing a game soon called Subterfuge. It's made by some people who are 2D Boy and some other people. 2D Boy, of course, made World of Goo.
Yep.
And Tomorrow Corp. No, hang on.
Half of 2D Boy are the people who made Little Inferno, and I don't know if they're the same people.
It's very convoluted, probably not.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're friends with the people who made Neptune's Pride, and they've made this game, and it's basically Neptune's Pride, but a little bit lighter, a lot slicker, and on iPhone, iPad, and Android.
And that's why it's terrifying. Because it lives with you.
It does.
You don't log in, it's there all the time, shouting at you that you're losing.
Because I don't have an iPhone, which means I'm playing on iPad.
Okay.
Which is basically means what happens to me is I have to go and check my iPad. And it means when I go out for a curry, fuck knows what's happening.
I think that's better for your psyche. Oh, no, I don't know if it is.
It isn't? No.
This is the thing, right? I'm going to get my phone out now, and I bet you I have something telling me something terrifying.
You probably do.
Yeah.
What does it say?
I've got one player has just hired a pirate. I know what pirates do. They're fucking terrifying. They can wreck your shit.
I don't know what pirates do. What do pirates do?
So pirates can... Well, okay, we're getting way past... Just for you.
Yeah, just for me.
Quick. Pirates can attack a sub on the way to a place. So you can see a sub coming, and instead of going, oh shit, I have to fortify that place, you can just drive straight to it and destroy it. Terrifying.
Who's got a pirate?
Nels.
Okay, fine.
Who's near me.
Who's near you?
And I'm sending subs around.
He's less of a concern to me, I think. So basically, the game is just... There are 8 of us playing it. It's me, Quentin Smith, Joe Screbbles, Chris Bratt, Philippa War, Nels, I think Nels Anderson, maybe? Nels. I've forgotten his second name. A chap called Nels, who's one of the devs on Firewatch, which actually looks fucking awesome. And who else have we got? Paul Dean, Lee Alexander.
That's it, isn't it?
And that's it, I think.
Yeah.
So there's 8 of us in this watery realm. It's all submarine themed, and Chris Bratt said it took him a few days to note the fact that it's Subterfuge submarines.
None of us got that.
I didn't even spot it.
No.
He was, yeah. But
if you need a visual cue, it looks a lot like Sunless Sea, but without the sort of map elements.
Yes, it does.
Like the place names and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's very lo-fi, very simple, but quite slick. And then it's kind of funny, because to play the game, you have to do all of these little tutorial puzzles, and it's really intense.
Yeah.
Because it's like asking you to solve quite complex little puzzles after the basic stuff. Anyway, it's like, how do you do this? And you're like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, exactly.
And they took a while for me to work out. But then because you're doing all of these little puzzles in succession, it becomes this thing of you think, oh my god, this game's so complicated.
Yeah.
And then you realise that no, actually, each of those moves would have taken about 20 hours of real time.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a strategy game where every move takes probably at least 5 hours to resolve. Like, at least, I would say. I don't think anywhere's close enough to have less than that.
The closest thing I've played to this was actually a kind of browser-based game, which I used to play a little bit. I think it might have been called Planetaria or something. What was it called? I don't remember what it was called. This is embarrassing. But it was a game I used to play, and I got into it because a friend of mine who I met at college was really into it, and he introduced me to it. And at one game, he'd like come first, and he had the printout of a screen grab.
Holy shit!
He'd screen grabbed the fact that he'd won a game, and he had it on his bedroom wall as like a kind of like Medal of Honor. This guy wasn't even that geeky, but he was like, "Yeah,
this thing had
this is one of the best things I've ever done." Like that, and the fact that he appeared as a junior columnist in Carp World was like his claims to fame.
Good stuff.
But this game was similar in the fact that you had like factories and stuff. You had planets. You would build up ships, and then you could attack other people. But this game had a similar thing in the fact that things took time to do. But it was a very simple kind of text-based browser interface. And the real trick with this game was just sending stuff at 1 a.m.
Yeah,
and it was it became this arms race of who could stay up late and who could get up early.
But this is what screws with us because we're playing with people in Canada, so there's no downtime.
Half of the game is being played from Canada and half of it is in the UK.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it means that when we wake up in the morning, we just go, ah!
Yeah.
But then when they wake up in the morning, they have the exact same thing.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, like, today, as an example, we haven't really described what the game is. You basically have a load of outposts that some provide you with power, some build drillers, which are your sort of basic combat unit. And then you have like specialists like a queen who can hire other people. If you lose your queen, you lose, that kind of stuff.
So yeah, the queen is your your queen. And you have to protect her by keeping her in a safe place. But she also adds shields to the area she's in. So it's kind of like she makes where she is a bit safer naturally. But that's where the strategy of kind of the army style strategy comes from, is the fact that every like 10 hours, 12 hours, you're allowed to build a specialist with the queen.
Yeah.
And specialists can do a bunch of things. But then it means you get to choose kind of to shape what you're doing. So for example, in mine, because it is this thing where you have these little nodes, and these nodes are your bases, and you have factories, and you have like outposts and all these different things, I chose to go for something which just expanded the range of my radar.
Yeah.
Which meant that each of my outposts could just see a little further.
But that's the interesting thing, is it's the luck element, because that is the one element of luck, is you don't know which specialist you're going to be able to hire, and they can totally change how you play.
Oh, yeah.
Like, some of them are very combat oriented. I have a princess who expands my sonar, and I think, I haven't looked into it fully, but I think if my queen dies, she becomes queen.
That's it, yeah.
So
your queen is basically expendable.
So I have like a lifeline from the start, which has changed how I've built.
It means you can
area.
basically use your queen like an extra shield.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, she's dead. Oh, it doesn't matter. We got a princess in the bank.
It's got that cosmic encounter vibe where it's like you've got a set of rules and then you've got things that break those rules.
Absolutely.
And that's the deal. Like,
absolutely.
And so, back to the Canada thing. This morning, I woke up. Quinns has enormous stripe of territory that he's taken, which is terrifying because he's right at the top of the leaderboards. He's built a mine, which is how you win. So your mine digs up stuff for how many outposts you have. And you have to get 200 of this ludicrously named material called Neptunium.
Neptunium, that's it. I was like, what's it called?
It's
something stupid.
Shit. And so he's way ahead. And I woke up and suddenly looked around and was like, the whole map is attacking Quinns now because he's built such a big place and he is a threat.
It's because basically you start off and you've got like 5 places and you look around the map and it's just this dark sea and you can see all the names of all the colours of all different people. But it's that classic thing of unlike in Risk, where it's like, I'm in England, I'm at war with France and maybe Germany and maybe Norway. In this, it's like, it's an underwater sea thing, which means it's a scrolling map that you can just go through and everybody is completely surrounded by
everyone else.
Well, not everyone, but
more or less.
By a few people at all times.
Yeah.
So I started off like, I don't have any borders with Brat, for example, which is awesome, because it means I can talk to Brat, and I don't really know if he's on my side or not most of the time, but then I'm kind of like, well, he's not an immediate threat to me either. And that's kind of a reassurance. Whereas I've got, on every other side, I have threats. And the thing is, it's one of these weird things, especially playing it like this, is I thought, well, no one's going to trust me because nobody trusts me. Like, It's a thing of I'm quite well known in this sort of game for being untrustworthy. And
that's the problem of playing with people you play games with, isn't it?
It's the problem playing games with people I play games with. And also it's the problem of playing games and having had a couple of really good gambits. Like when we played the Resistance Avalon on Shut Up and Sit Down years ago, like a couple of years ago. And it's a really good video. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. But in that, I have a run as a bad guy, which is the most audacious series of lies and things I've ever done. It's great that we caught it on camera because it's probably my best game of the Resistance I've ever done. I pulled off some pretty slick stuff in that game, and I won. But because of that, I've kind of now been cemented as being like the untrustworthy one of the gang. Well, of course, it's different because that is a game explicitly about lying.
Yeah.
It's like if you're a bad guy in the Resistance, you have to lie. That's how you win. Whereas in this, it's like I've actually kind of spec'd up for economy and I'm not really interested in having a fight. At the same time, we started the game at a period because it's like it runs for approximately 7 to 10 days. Because they were in Canada, we started at a time which kind of made sense for everyone, which ended up being 11 p.m. at night. So we had to queue up our first set of orders before we went to bed. Unfortunately, I was drunk. So
your outpost spelled out the word booze.
So I was sat in bed with my iPad and desperately trying to go through the rest of the tutorials because I didn't really understand the game. My girlfriend getting quite irate with me because I wasn't listening to what she was saying and I was, in her eyes, playing games. Which, of course, I'm not playing games.
A drunk
It's
boy.
something a lot more serious than that. And then, so I'm doing this stuff and then I get through the tutorials and I just get into the game and I go, I don't know what to do. And I've got all these grey areas around me. I've got all these grey nodes and factories and I'm like, well, they're not anybody's. So they may as well be mine. And so I just send out like a few ships to all of them. Just being like, well, see what you get. And then, because Quinn's were already sending like a couple of ships to a few things that were
that's
quite
how
near to me.
Quinn's has done his thing. It's one ship.
This is the thing.
One driller to every place.
But then what happened is I sent like one driller to every place, and then the same places that he'd sent them to, because he was in Canada, before the timer came in, he went, well, screw this, and sent like 20 to the ones that I'd sent one to. But then he took this like factory right next to like my whole area. And the thing about factories is they just gradually build up drillers. And one of the really nice things about this game I like is the fact that drillers are your army, but also your economy.
Yeah.
So basically, if you want to build a mine, which is how you build up the resource that wins you the game, you have to spend drillers. But then you can't spend drillers if you're fighting with them because they're dying. And so it's this thing of you have to fight a bit to defend yourself, but you don't want to fight too much because otherwise you're just not going to win the game.
Killing your money.
So it's kind of a hard thing, but he'd taken this really annoying spot. And so I was like, all right, well, I've sent some things over there. And he was like, what? But that factory's right next to where I am. You can't have that factory. And I'm like, well, you've taken one right next to me. So we'll just have to agree that we both have ones next to each other and just chill out and just live with that.
It's probably worth mentioning that there's a really slick chat system in the game, so you can chat to anyone privately. You can create groups of any size privately. So technically, there could be a group of all 7 of you talking about killing me. And that's what makes me paranoid the whole time. I just sit there and go, they're all conspiring. They're all moving in.
This is the thing.
Horrible.
I spent a lot of yesterday, the first day, just sitting, talking to everyone.
Yeah.
And I had this thing of, I felt really bad because it was this thing of the next day after I woke up and found that Quinn's had this huge chunk of the map and was just like running away with it. My immediate thing to do was to send messages to everyone going, oh, Quinn's is just madly expanding everywhere, isn't he? Despite the fact that I'd done exactly the same thing, just less effectively. But I mean, in my defence, it's because I was drunk. Whereas of course, he's just drunk with power.
That's it. That guy's mad. And also, to come back all the way back, basically, I woke up, Quinn's had taken loads of stuff, everyone else had started attacks, and me and Quinn's had a sort of accord where he was like, look, I'm going to move out of this place so you can have it because you're already sending someone there. Let's just keep this as our borders. And I was like, that's cool. Then overnight, 2 of the Canadians started moving in on my shit. And so I think they're going to take those. So I had to expand out. And the only place to expand was some of Quinn's stuff. So he wakes up at about afternoon our time, and I get the most spectacularly passive-aggressive message where he's just going, man, I thought we decided on our borders. Like, this is kind of weird. And I was like, look, man, I'm really sorry. Needs must. I need this place. You got tons. Let me have it. And he was like, okay. And now I'm just going, oh, fuck, he's going to kill me. But I'm looking at the map and going, he's not got much. I can probably hold it.
That's the thing. And I realised what I like about it is the fact that I realised I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh man, like this is annoying because I didn't want to fight with Quinns, right? I know me and Quinns always end up fighting in games because we're just like that. But I didn't really want to fight him. But then he's taken this factory right next to me and I'm like, all right, well, I'll take this one. And then he immediately takes that one back because it's too close to him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I want that one then. And all he has to do is just let me have that one. And then we're fine. But he's so stubborn that it's just like a real uphill battle. But what's lovely is I thought, well, I can't fight him. I haven't got the military strength to fight him. So I just thought, but I do because I've got these expanded radars. I thought, but I do have a pretty good view of his bases.
Yeah.
And it just meant I've just fed intel about him to everyone.
Well, you were saying beforehand you're just playing Varys.
I'm playing Varys.
Which is actually, in the sense of the lore of Game of Thrones, that is the evolution of someone no one trusts. So you have evolved successfully into Varys.
That's what I'm trying to do, because I know that no one's going to trust me. So I figure I might
keep giving them good tell.
I might as well be untrustworthy in a way which is better than just stabbing someone in the back. I might as well just be somebody who people don't really trust, but also don't expect to completely screw them constantly.
You're just handing the knife for someone to stab.
Otherwise, people are just, and this is the problem. Otherwise, people are just going to preemptively stab me in the back. But it's this funny thing of the fact that it's okay, fine, we have to deal with this. But then it's really funny when you start to get a better view of things as well, because you can actually get an idea of what the bigger picture is. And the thing I love about this, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, and it may have been a thing from Neptune's Pride, because presumably that's about being underwater and shit as well. I don't fucking know. But I love how you really do get this sense of this isolation and this darkness, because you can see the colours of the players and you can see who's where, but you don't know what anyone's doing. And not just in terms of where submarines are going, not just in terms of they're sending submarines from there to there. But this, as you say, it's the thing of I spent a whole day talking to everyone, basically telling everyone, Quinns is really weak, you should attack him from the side. Quinns is really weak, you should attack him from the side. Trying to spread trouble between, not you, but the other.
Oh, you bastards.
No.
Not you.
There's three people I've been 100% legit with so far, and that's you. Actually, that's you, Brat, and Pip.
Right.
Brat because he hasn't really asked me anything anyway, and he's not a threat. Pip because Pip is archetypally the sort of person who just immediately just gets stomped on for no reason. And so I thought, no. So I'm doing a weird thing with Pip, and I'm trying to, I don't know if it's working or not, but I thought the idea of trying to make it, people think that I'm fighting Pip a bit. But I'm not.
Interesting.
Just so we can both keep our borders a bit clear. But she might just stab me in the back, I don't know. But yeah, no, I haven't lied to you either. But I have,
because you're on the podcast.
No. But I've lied to a few other people quite a lot, just trying to make people think that other things are happening. Not majorly, but just being I think this is worrying. They're basically in the hope that if I can make the other people paranoid about each other, they might leave me alone.
It's interesting how all this stuff ties in as well, because you talking about the accepted relationship of everyone with you with Quinns, these little things, these flashpoints where everyone assumes that something's going to happen. There's also placement really affects this. As you say, you have no reason to lie to Brat because he's not near you. There's nothing there. So when we started, Quinns and Lee are right next to each other, and as soon as we started, Paul messages it.
Yes, I'm really worried about that. Yeah,
Paul messages me and goes, "They're going to work together. They're definitely going to work together." And I can't tell whether Paul is just going "fuck them up" for me or genuinely trying to inform me.
That's exactly the same thing.
He's also there with them. So, and they've got this weird thing of they can sit around and talk outside of the chat room. And so they've got this sort of meta advantage of this, it's like all their queens have got together for this secret conclave and they're all chatting about the game.
Yeah, it's a big thing. And also it's this funny thing of I can see it's well, hang on a minute, all of their submarines are moving away from their back end and their submarines move. So all of Pip's are moving to one front end and all of Lee's moving up, which means you can kind of tell by looking at it. It's oh, well, that means that their border isn't really that defended. Yeah. So does that mean that they're just kind of vaguely trusting? Or are they allied? Yeah. And that's the questions you start to have. You're hang on a minute. Do I? And I've got this weird thing at the moment. I've got Paul and Lee both going next to me. And I'm is this a coincidence? Or are they working together and about to stomp me?
Also, the thing today was I twice got messages from you and Lee within minutes of each other. Twice. At either end of the day. And I was just going, are they talking to each other and then saying opposite things to me?
It's very confusing.
What is going on?
And it's the thing
here?
is, when you send your ship somewhere, it's going to take them like 12, 14 hours to get there, which means not only is that like, oh, you're going to have to find out if it's successful or not, it means you just left something undefended.
Yep.
And you can't turn around, you can't cancel, you can't just say, oh, actually, go home. And I mean, Lee was trying to get me to attack you, and I'm kind of wondering, I was like, are you just trying to draw me down so that Paul can move in? Like, knowing that it's going to take me a long time to get back. And you start to have all these big questions about, like, but then also seeing it from the other perspective of being like, Quinn saying to me, oh, let's reassess our borders. I'll move away from this border so you feel safe. And I'm like, you need to move away from this border because the other half of your base is massively under attack because I sent people there.
And Joe's in it.
But at the same time, as you say, I had this thing like last night where I kind of felt like when I've been chatting to you and chatting to Brat and being like, yeah, you guys, you go and attack him from behind. He's weak. Because I couldn't beat him, but I'm like, yeah, but I can cause him trouble. So I get those guys to do it. And I was sitting there going, yes, Quinn's is going to have to leave me alone because I've just caused him trouble and they get something free. And then I had this moment just looking at the map and looking at this darkness of you and Brat and just being like, but maybe they're not doing it.
Fuck.
It's the thing of being like, you've told me that you're attacking Quinn's, but until the colours on the map changes, which will be 15 hours, 20 hours, I cannot know whether or not you're telling the truth.
The Fog of War is amazing as well because it's not only does it hide that much from you, and it's probably a game balance thing, but it works narratively, is the only thing you can tell from behind the Fog of War is when someone's built a mine, and the mine obviously being the key to winning. And so you just watch mines popping up across this background and just go, everyone's fucking winning. Everything's going well for them. And it builds you into this state of like, fuck, I've got to send everyone to their mines and destroy them. And like, mines are incredibly valuable because not only do they stop production if you take them over, you destroy 20% of their...
You take it?
You take 20% of their stuff. And you just look at it and you're like, oh my God, just everyone's got all the money. And
That's the thing, it turns you into a monster, but it's also simultaneously turning everyone else into a monster. And you always have way too many fronts, you can't defend them. All it takes is for somebody to just go, actually, you know what, I'm going to take that. And then trouble ensues.
And this is the beautiful thing about the devices it uses, because obviously for you have to leave something behind. You have to divest responsibility of your sea land that's getting killed by people. For me, it's equally terrifying because I'm getting... It gives me push notifications every time something happens that I can see in my area. I know what's happening. And so I'm checking my phone, I'm like, oh, I got a text. Oh, it might be my girlfriend. Oh, fuck. And so it just fucks with your head
phrases it as well. It says things like, enemy subs on your radar.
Yeah.
You just go,
and you have to swipe in, and then it zooms in on them, and you're just like, it's like
sometimes they're not even coming to you, but
exactly,
it's like, I like that as well. There's like the knowledge it gives you. There's a weird thing where like often, when you play this sort of things, because it is in many ways like a board game, you have this thing of, okay, I'm allied with you, which means I'll help you in fights. Cool, fun. But in this, because the ships take a long time to go, it means that you might have ships that are just in your radars that are not anything to do with you, but they're like just clipping through a little bit of your radar going somewhere else. And that happened this morning. And it was this thing of being like, I saw some ships going somewhere and I was like, and I was like, they're going to affect Joe. So it just meant I kind of looked at it and I looked at the distances and I'm like, Joe can get away from there if he moves in the next 3 hours. Yeah. And it's this thing of being he can, so as long as he moves in the next 3 hours, he's fine.
As long as Joe doesn't have any pressing actual real life work,
I was really worried you weren't going to get out of bed. I was like, I'm going to save him here, but then it's nice because it means you can actually ingratiate yourself with players, not just by promises, but actually with information. Yeah. You can be like, you've got an army coming to you. It's going to arrive in 17 hours.
Well, there's an amazing thing where it will tell you if something's targeted one of your bases. So I've got...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Paul has sent a sub that I now know only has 8 drillers, right? I didn't know how many people it had, I don't think. He'd sent a sub from like 36 hours away to hit one of my places. And I can't tell whether it's a mistake or long game like I've never seen.
Paul is playing in such a weird way.
Yeah.
He's just sending lots of little shipments of like 2 or 3 things around between his bases.
Yeah.
Seemingly at random.
Just the idea that
he's no idea what he's doing.
Just the idea that maybe he's thought 36 hours ahead frightened the shit out of me. I was just going, oh my God, he's the Machiavellian puppet master of this world.
I had to have a really complex, like a really intense conversation conversation with Lee this afternoon just because she's sending all this stuff to a factory that she owns on my border. And I just had to say, you can't do that. You can't. Factories produce military and they just get bigger and bigger. If you're sending troops in as well, it means you've just got this massive army that's constantly growing, sitting right next to my base. I was like, you can't do this. And the funny thing is, I realised it may be a bug, but I don't think it is. But when people are like planning to do stuff, when people are just like in the process of like drawing the lines before they've chosen.
Oh, can you see them then? You can
see it live. So I could see her going 0 submarine going there, and I was just like, don't do that, don't do that. And then she was like, oh, and she was like,
but that's just someone going 40
maybe
hours.
Yeah, I know that's but now after I saw that I get really paranoid now. I'm really careful about when I do stuff.
I love that it does that as well, that you can I don't think that is a bug then.
Oh, it's an accident.
Well,
I didn't mean to do that.
But I don't think that is a bug then, because then that's the only way of checking how long it takes to get somewhere is actually doing it. So if someone else is online, so it's a whole other metagame that you have to watch who's online when.
Yeah, so if they're online, you maybe don't want to look because they might watch you doing it.
Quinn's put it beautifully yesterday, which is there's a little green light that lights up next to their name. And he said, whispers in the dark. This idea that you could see people are online and you have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's just beautiful.
It's because you have, because actually the game, there is nothing to do. Like, you often have, you can queue up orders in advance.
Yeah.
So if you vaguely know what you're going to do, like, you just say, well, this is going to happen 4 hours.
Oh, I've got like 12 hours of stuff done. I'm going away for the weekend, so on the train tonight, I'm going to make like 24 hours of speculative orders. Just going, I reckon this is how
and you can probably log in
out.
every now and then and change things if they need
That's
to.
That's exactly
but,
it. Yeah.
But you can do these things and then you can just go, okay, done. But then it means that when people are on, like they're probably not queuing up orders. They're probably talking to people.
That's it.
And what are they saying? And it's that thing of, exactly the same thing of you. I thought, I spent an afternoon talking to everyone about Quins and saying, well, you should try and stop Quins, try and stop Quins, try and do Quins. And then realised that I was like, oh, happy, brilliant. This is going to be all right. Quins isn't going to destroy me. But then you go, what if Quins has just spent the entire day talking to everyone about me?
Yeah.
I've no idea.
It's singularly the most horrifying experience.
It's a hell of a thing, but it's also really stressful. And also, it makes you appreciate why conflict happens. Because you have to be firm with people. But it's so tempting to just immediately throw politics to one side.
Yeah.
Like, Lee's moving all this stuff to this factory next to me, and I just said to her, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. You cannot have that. I'm happy for you to have that factory, but you cannot amass an army there. If you do, I will have to take it. And then she just said, "Oh, how are you going to take it?" And I'm just like, "Well, that's my problem, but I will have to take it."
Well, Lee, let me give you an inventory of everything I own.
Actually, I do have the means to take it quite easily, but it's this thing of being like. But then she's like, "You have to resist because you just want to go." Fine, do what you want.
Yeah.
But actually, you're like, well, I don't really want to fight. So you have to resist temptation to go, on your head! Which is just, when somebody's not doing what you want them to do or what you think is reasonable, you just want to go, well, I'll see you in hell. When actually you kind of go, yeah, but it is wasting money.
Yeah.
Can I convince them not to do it? As it is, I can't convince them not to do it. So we're probably going to have to fight.
It's going to be some kind of war.
And blood. Anyway, that's Subterfuge. I won't say any more about it, even though we just talked at length. But if you want to know more about it, then it should be later this week. Hopefully, we'll have the first part of our diaries, which will include Joe and Chris Pratt chipping in some little bits. And it will be, kind of like video diary, audio diary, combination of stuff about the flow of the game. So we've just given you some spoilers for the first day. Apologise. But the rest of it should be pretty fun to watch.
It's not going to be. It's going to be stressful beyond belief. You're all going to have an awful time.
Hello, Matt and Joe. It's me, Quins. I was on my way to Vancouver, but I've been playing so much Soma and Subterfuge this week, I've gotten a bit lost and ended up in a kind of undersea base. Don't believe the video games, it's lovely down here.
Another cocktail, sir?
Ooh, thank you very much. So, I was just on the observation deck watching a particularly playful porpoise when I thought of a question for you boys. Games set in undersea bases always feature lies. What is the greatest deception you've achieved in a video game, and have you ever lied to yourself?
Well, that's an easier one, isn't it? Well, I mean, I've convinced myself that so many games are really good.
I've convinced myself I'm good at games too.
Yeah, that's a classic.
That moment where you turn on a fighting game and pull off a combo and you're like, I'm probably Evo level. This is pretty good.
The only deception I can think of that I've achieved was probably... I mean, it's a classic one, but I don't know why I could think of this, but I remember it may have been Red Alert, Command & Conquer Red Alert. Mm-hmm. It may have been one of those games had a thing whereby they hadn't really implemented I think, if I remember correctly, they haven't really implemented some of the stuff that now they have in modern video games. When units walk behind foliage, they then become like these sort of like, you can still see them, but it's doing an effect to show you they're behind something.
It did not do that, because I remember Age of Empires 2 did that, and I was like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. This is the future.
But it just meant, I think it was something like you put Tanya, or the commander, or whichever one it was, just behind a tree.
Tanya was unbelievable.
And you just leave them there.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, like, you'd have, like, when you're playing on, like, LAN games or whatever, people would just be walking infantry past, and then they'd all just die. And they wouldn't know why. And that was kind of wonderful. People would just be like, what happened? Because you wouldn't even, like, get to see the men, because often she had a much better range than standard infantry. Yeah. So you wouldn't even get to see the men stopping and shooting in the direction of...
They just
fall over.
And they had that weird effect on Red Alert where they just seemed to turn into blood.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, man. Like, Red Alert is one of those games where, like, it was fabulous.
I was
obsessed with it.
Red Alert was accidentally installed on all the computers in the IT department at my school.
That can't have been an accident.
Well, someone had got a copy. There was a copy that sat in the teacher's, like, office. And someone had clearly found it and installed it on all the computers. And so all that happened, because it was like 2 rows of computers facing each other. So we'd have LAN games, and whenever the teacher was on one side, the other team would be doing stuff. So it made for this like weird asymmetrical where one side would be playing. As soon as he comes around, minimise, go back to work. The other side gets their turn.
Fantastic.
It's really good.
That's absolutely
So actually,
fantastic.
That's the greatest deception in video games. Teaching that teacher.
Did anyone ever try to manipulate the teacher to buy extra time?
Almost certainly. I don't remember well enough. We were too young.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It was that illicit thrill of playing video games that you weren't meant to as well, because we were all like 10, and it was like a 15 rated game with blood and women. It was amazing.
It had literally everything.
It was incredible.
Oh, that's amazing. That reminds me a little bit of when I did a theatre thing, You Me Bum Bum Train, when I was which is a real name, a real thing.
I remember you talking
They're doing their last show soon, actually, but it was a wonderful thing if I was in an army scene. If you want to know about it, just do some Googling. I'm sure I've talked about it maybe I've talked about it on regular features.
I think you did, yeah.
In detail. But, yeah, we were in the army scene, and it was this thing of often people would come in and just tell you to do press-ups. They said, drop and give me 100 press-ups. Now, anyone who's not done 100 press-ups before will not know how difficult that is. Even if you're quite buff, 100 press-ups is kind of an ask, especially if you're doing them properly army style. But it meant we did the same thing of whenever the person who was the kind of passenger on the ride, the person who had told you to do these press-ups was looking the other way, you continue to shout the number of press-ups you were doing whilst not doing
while lying down
and as soon as they started to turn around again, you continue. So that don't know, it reminded me of that. But I love that, this idea of all these kids. But surely the teacher would notice that, like, people never made any progress. Maybe he just felt that, like, he was a great teacher.
Oh no, he didn't.
People never made any progress on the work.
This is one of those teachers that had clearly, like, done something wrong in their old role and just been assigned to something. Like, this was a guy, I think he used to be an English teacher, and then he suddenly became the IT teacher.
IT was like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, IT's like sports.
I think
people who can't do it.
It's probably changed now, hasn't it?
You'd hope, because it's quite important.
IT is, like, mega important.
That's it. Like, we were meant to be learning about Excel. I would love to know about Excel now. I sometimes need it.
Our IT teacher was meant to be a maths teacher, or vice versa. I don't know. It was always like IT teachers was someone who didn't really want to be doing it, but hey, why not? Computers. I know about computers, sure.
Yeah.
I remember one IT lesson where this boy had written an entire thing out and then asked the teacher, how do I make it not in caps lock? And at that point, the official answer from the teacher was, you can't. No one could work out how to do it. And so he had to just rewrite this thing because he'd written the whole thing in caps lock. I mean, he was an idiot. So hopefully, if you're still out there, Darren, hopefully now you've learned how to use a keyboard. I presume I met him in a pub a few years ago. He seemed like a nice chap.
I reckon he doubled down, just shouts everything now. Let's just look. This is what I've got. I might as well work with it.
This is how I do. Okay.
Yeah.
I just shout.
Yeah. My greatest deception is probably throwing a grenade on one side of a thing in Crucible, then running around the other. It's pretty good. It works every time. People are always like, "Oh, it's a grenade on that side," and then you run around behind them.
That is good.
It's pretty high tactic.
I'm trying to think about major deceptions I've played in my time. Problem is, like, video games, and this is something we talk about, like, in the fact that board games largely are at the moment a lot more interesting than video games because they're experimenting with lots of different ideas, and deception isn't something which video game does very interestingly.
Oh, Hidden in Plain Sight. Have you ever played that?
No, but I've had people talk about this all the time.
Look, get 4 people together. Sorry, I've sworn a lot. It's get 4 people together and play Hidden in Plain Sight and watch people learn how to deceive their friends. It's amazing because it's a game that asks you to play like an AI, and so you start watching other players, but you're also watching how the computer acts and trying to learn how like these little sprites move. It's incredible. Like to explain, it's several modes along the same theme, which
it's kind of like Where's Wally, but with death.
But with death. It's several different modes. Very lo-fi, just sprites walking around a flat top-down screen, and 4 players in it are exactly like these sprites, but they have their own objectives. So sometimes it's kill all the other players.
So it's kind of a proto version of what ended up being like the way that Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. So Assassin's Creed, I am absolutely positive someone just nicked that idea because it's so clearly the same idea, but it's hidden in plain sight. Like I've played the Assassin's Creed version, going, this is like high def. Hidden in Plain Sight. It's not, because there's too much interaction.
Yeah.
Hidden in Plain Sight's beautiful because it is literally move and attack, and that's all there is. Or there's like one mode where it's 3 people have to race to get to a finish line, and the 4th person is a sniper with 3 bullets. And they have to work out not only who the people are, but kill them before they get to a finish line. And it's exhilarating. So you don't want to be moving too fast.
Or too consistently.
Oh, it's just great. It's so good.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
I think you've got like a year left to get it on an Xbox 360 now.
That's a shame.
Xbox Live Indie Games closes soon.
I wonder if it's something that's come on Steam. Who knows?
It might have done. But yeah, 4 players, and anyone can play it, because it's about learning how the game works, not learning how to play games.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's lovely.
That makes a lot of sense.
That is Deception, the game. It's so good.
Oh, no, I can't think of any deception. I think it's just being a child, really, and just deceiving your friends for whatever reason.
Big deceptions as kids, again, like screen cheating in first-person shooter games, like pretending that you haven't seen someone, so you're not running straight to them. But you know where they are, so you're running the roundabout route to get to where they're camping, because you've sneakily peeked at their screens.
It's amazing how much that was like a really brief social convention, was dealing with that.
Yeah.
Both doing it and dealing with it, because we all did it. Come on. You couldn't help it.
No, it's impossible.
No one is impervious to that. Because it's a screen in front of you. You see things.
We literally got to the point where we were asking our parents to pack TVs in our cars so that when we went to sleepovers, we had 4 TVs and 4 Xboxes.
Wow.
Like, it got to the point where the arguments were so severe that we had to go to these lengths. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So this was like Halo.
Yeah, because you're slightly younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of missed that. That was like the point at which the Xbox was becoming a thing. I was sort of off and about and doing things and being like trying to be cool and like, all stupid stuff.
We weren't trying to
that you go and do for a little while, and then you go, what the hell was I doing? What's this? Halo? It looks cool. So I missed all of that stuff. My brother was well into it though.
It's terrifying.
It is a shame though, because I remember like it's a weird thing that no one embraced it. You know, it was that thing of being like, screen watching was this curse. And people, I remember thinking many times about trying to invent some sort of cardboard contraption which would break off the different areas of the screen.
We had... well, see, no, I don't
but then
think we ever
like,
did that.
This won't work.
Someone did that.
Some people have to stand up and some people have to sit down.
Like, really late into... Like, when split screen was...
I gave it a lot of thought.
Yeah, fair enough. There's, like... really late into split screen stuff. So when it was all dying out, I remember a TV maker made one of those like lenticular TVs, so you see 2 different sides, and you could have certain games let you play 2 games on the same screen. So you couldn't screen watch. As long as you were looking at the TV from a certain angle, you could only see your part of the screen. It's really weird.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it just died on its ass because like split screen wasn't a thing anymore. So I just felt really sorry for these people who'd come up with like the perfect technical solution, and it's just like, nah, no one needs it anymore, mate. We're all online.
Yeah, but it's a shame because it was almost like when online came, it was like heralded by all of the people who played split screen games as being like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah,
it's the best. Now we won't have to see what other people are doing. It will be completely fair. But you forgot that you also then just lose the ability to like punch the person next to you on the arm
and
in
empathise.
an affectionate way. And apologise to someone because you keep killing them.
It's a problem. Yeah, we had one guy, Tim, who was really bad for screen cheating and really bad for being the guy in fighting games that always uses the same move. So we named these techniques after him. It was always called Sherwooding. It was like, this guy, he's a fucker. He's showing it up. It's just like, it's strange, those like mini cultures that build up around stuff.
I remember a guy he let us play our job in GoldenEye. He let people play our job because he was so good. He was so good.
Mate, I can press down on the C button pretty quickly, so you can play as much Odd Job as you like.
He must have been, I don't know, like he was, I realise now he was kind of a strange guy, so he might be one of these people with these exceptional brains or something, because he was obscenely good at GoldenEye.
Weird.
He literally came round and was like, oh, you've hardly got any of the cheats on GoldenEye. I'm like, yeah, it's way hard. I can't do like double. I probably said something like that as well. It was the 90s. It's way hard. And so he just sat and like, he was like, oh, he played it for about an hour or something. He was like, oh, I've only got like 10 cheats. I'm sorry. Like, I haven't got time for any more. I'm like, I was just like aghast at being like, whoa, oh my God. And like,
did he just come round and sat in your room? And that's the sign of someone with an exceptional brain.
It was another family who came to stay with us.
Oh, I see. Okay, right.
And we used to play games, and it was always like he was just way good.
The curse of the family.
He was way good at everything, but it was great because he unlocks all these things, and it was like I didn't even know in GoldenEye up until like this is like a year and a half after I'd owned it, and I've been playing it all the time. That I didn't even know that you could get like Baron Samedi and like the Moon and all these different levels. That he'd unlocked. So I was like, oh my God, we got 3. For a boy of my age, this was mind blowing. It was like we've got 3 new levels.
Yeah,
like 3 new. That's how many hours of gameplay is that?
And actually, you've just reminded me that's what was so special about, or partly so special about Towerfall to me, because we played the same 5 or 6 people in my office for about 3 or 4 months, played Towerfall every single lunchtime. And it does that thing. Well, firstly, you build up the culture, so everyone's got their style. And so you start like learning how people play, and it becomes that thing of like, oh, you're a fucker, you always sneak around. And it also has that thing where it unlocks levels but doesn't tell you how you've done it. So it has that old school thing of like, we've got a new level. This is amazing. I didn't even know this was possible.
Didn't even know there were new levels.
Exactly. Oh, it's just wonderful.
I couldn't believe it because it didn't do that thing of having question marks on the dossier.
Exactly.
It was just like, oh, you got this. I was like, what?
Excuse me?
I thought I had everything.
I thought we used all the paper on the old dossier.
And the same thing happened with Diddy Kong Racing. I love Diddy Kong Racing. We played it tons. I was all right at it, but I couldn't do WizPig.
It's impossible.
WizPig was so hard.
This guy didn't beat WizPig.
He's so fast. He's so big. He's a pig.
You're talking bullshit now. This guy didn't beat WizPig.
And he beat WizPig. And again, I didn't beat WizPig because I tried it. Like, I wasn't very patient as a child. I'm a lot more patient now. But I tried it a few times and I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do it. He's too fast. He's a pig. He's whizzing around. This is ridiculous.
The whiz has a double meaning. He's a wizard and he whizzes. It's unbelievable.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
God. Anyway, nice. I thought, well, it doesn't matter. It's the last thing. I don't need to do it. Doesn't matter. And then didn't realise that actually, after you do WizPig, space. You literally get a whole new set of courses in space. And so this wasn't something he unlocked for us. It was just that this was the same kid. And again, like, you know, he was like, he came back another time and he knew that obviously our house was not consistent enough when it came to unlocking things in multiplayer games. So he did not have any qualms in bringing his own cartridges going, these plebs, they're not going to have the space levels on Diddy Kong. So it just blew my mind. I was just like, oh my God, we are in space.
That's even worse because you don't know, you'll never have it again.
Didn't know the courses. No, I tried actually. It was a thing after he left. I spent a long time trying to beat WizPig and I just couldn't do it. He's so fast. I was even playing as the big chicken, and the big chicken is fast.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Tough times as a kid.
Games. I wonder what that guy's up to. He was very good at video games.
He's probably an esports pro.
No, I expect he's gone on to do something kind of valuable and
useful to society.
Or at least very lucrative with his life.
Interesting. Maybe he's a pig farmer, trying to get that one elusive, really magical pig.
He really liked computers.
So he could beat it.
He was, as you might say, a geek.
Interesting. I never thought that.
I know, right?
From what you said.
I know. Who would have thought? But I hope he's doing well, because I really appreciated the cheats and levels he unlocked in GoldenEye.
If you could come round and unlock the secret section of Beginner's Guide, that'd be great. I really want to see that 12th game.
There must be one.
Imagine if that was a thing. Imagine if Beginner's Guide, there's one. If you go in that...
There's a whole karting area in space.
In that first bit, the Counter-Strike level, if you just walk around and down one corridor, you unlock a new game. That'd be amazing.
Probably a fact.
Then New Game Plus in Beginner's Guide.
This guy's probably laughing at the fact that we haven't done it already.
I bet there is New Game Plus in Beginner's Guide, and everyone's just been too depressed to like click it and start again and see what it does.
It's like the Stanley Parable. You just keep doing it, but it gets worse and worse until you want nothing ever again. Anyway, we haven't got any questions this week because I forgot to ask
Apart from
questions.
Quins, we've got.
But I will try now to set a precedent for the future of saying if you would like to ask a question for next week's episode, then it's a bit elaborate, but if you go to coolghost.com, no, don't go to coolghost.com. Nobody owns it. Or somebody owns it, but they're just sitting on it like a tit.
Like a tit.
There, I said it. Go to coolghost.net and you find out this week's episode of the podcast, or you're listening right now. There'll be a comments thread there, and I will leave a thing saying, ask questions here. And you can ask questions underneath. Next week, our guest is going to be... Did you want...
Was that a... Should I have drum roll?
No, I did it with my mouth.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
It's going to be Mr. Andy Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
Who I've known for a very long time and want to get on because he's the guy who makes Other Places.
He's very good.
He is very good.
All things on the internet.
And he's very jovial and he's a very nice man. But I'll be talking to him next week with Joe about Other Places and probably some other stuff as well. Probably some video games. So if you have any questions, particularly maybe you have some other questions about Other Places, then do. If you don't know what Other Places is, go and have a look at it.
I really look forward to the questions that are just... This was a bad episode. I didn't like Joe. And you read it with a question mark at the end. Go, I don't really get it.
Don't get that question. I'll just keep saying it
just
until I understand it.
Until Joe's a husk on the floor. He's cried out. All his moisture's gone.
And then once your moisture is gone, I will eat you like a crisp. It's a hell of a threat.
Weird.
It is weird. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to the Daft Souls podcast. As ever, if you have enjoyed the podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes or anywhere else you like. Download it on SoundCloud. Do whatever you like.
I believe in you.
And as ever, coolghost.net is supported by Patreon, so if you do enjoy the podcast, you can go and have a look at that. All the details on the website. But we'll see you next week, and the questions thing will be continually now on the site from last week's podcast episode. It's a system. It's strange, but it's a system.
It's going to work.
It's going to work. It has to work. It has to work. And we'll be playing lots of submarine stuff.
I'm going to be dead next week.
We're all going to be dead next week.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively.
We are all going to be dead next week. That's made me feel better.
So just suck it up and enjoy life while it's here.
No, I'm sucking.
Jesus. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.